Today we are going to start our next chapter of biology, and the name of the chapter is Heredity and Evolution. So what is heredity? Heredity generally can be defined as the process by which the characters, just like the height or the skin color, the hair pattern, the hair color, the eye color, are transfer, is known as heredity. So this is the introduction of this chapter, heredity and evolution. So in every human being there are specific features that can be recognized, and these features are differ from person to person. For example, height, complexion, shape of nose, chin, color of eyes and hair are called as characters or trait. So the features that can be easily observable are known as characters or trait. The transmission of trait from the parents to their offspring is called as heredity. Means it is a process by which traits are transferred from parents to their next generation to the children is known as heredity. And the hereditary information is present in gametes of the parents. Means each parent produce gamete, that is male parent produce male gamete and the female parent will produce female gamete. So these gametes are helpful for the transmission of these characters. So gametes are generally, you can say, it is a link between parents and its next generation. So next is variation. As we know, we are just similar to our parents, but there are little bit difference in the characters of parents and to their offspring. So variation can be defined as the difference in the character among the individual of a species is called as variation. The offspring is never a true copy of the parent, and there are many kind of variation in human species like free and attached earlobes, different complexion of different human being. Some are dark color, some are light brown, some are dusky whitish fair color, and different eye color is also present in human being. For example, brown color, blue color, green, umber color. And height is also differ from person to person, tall or short. So these are some characters by which we can define the term variation. Now these variation accumulate over generation and generation. Means from one generation to next generation variations are passed on, and these variations get accumulated from generation to generation, and it will lead to formation of a new species, and this variation increase the chance of its survival in changing environment. Now important terms. First is some terms that are used in this chapter. First one is chromosome. What is chromosome? Chromosome is a thread-like structure in the nucleus of cell formed of DNA which carries the gene. Next, gene. Gene is the segment of DNA or unit of DNA present on chromosome, and these genes help in the synthesis of protein and control a specific characteristics of an organisms. Genes are actually unit of heredity which transfer characteristics from parent to their offspring during reproduction. Next is dominant gene. Dominant genes are those genes which express themselves. Means these genes express themselves and it mainly lead to the appearance of an organism. So dominant genes are mainly represented by capital letter, and recessive genes, the genes which can decide the appearance of an organism only in the presence of another identical gene. It is called as recessive gene. It is represented by corresponding small letter. So recessive genes are those genes which can decide the appearance of an organism only in the presence of another identical gene called as recessive gene. Next is genotype. Genotype, it is the description of gene present in an organism, and phenotype, it is the visual character that appear in an organism. Next, when two parents are crossed, then the new generation will form, or the new offspring will form. This is known as first generation, or you can say first filial generation or F1 generation. So what is F1 generation? When two parents cross to produce young one or offspring, their offspring is called as first generation or F1 generation. Next is second generation, that is F2 generation. When the first generation of offspring cross among themselves to produce second generation, then this is known as F2 or second filial generation. Next, now Mendel play a very important role in this chapter of biology, and Mendel is also known as father of genetics. So George John Mendel was the first scientist to make a systematic study of how the inheritance pattern form and how the characters are transferred from parents to their next generation. Mendel chose pea plant for experimental purposes, and because pea plant has different characters, means it has tall, dwarf, color, shape, so it has different type of character which can be easily observable from every aspect. So another reason of choosing the pea plant was that they were self pollinated, and Mendel has choose the pea plant because pea plant has a short lifespan, and the study of this pea plant is very simpler as that of animals. So these are the reasons why Mendel chose the pea plant for experimental purposes. Next, law of dominance. So Mendel proposed different there are three laws Mendel proposed, and first law is known as law of dominance. What is dominance? Dominance in simple language we can represent when a gene or when a allele express themselves and other gene will not express themselves in a pair, then it is known as dominate character. So according to this law, in a cross of parents that are pure for contrasting trait, only one form of the trait will appear in the next generation. All the offspring will heterozygous and express only the dominate trait. So for example, capital T is dominate over small t, means tall character of pea plant is always dominate over dwarf character of pea plant. Next is law of segregation. Next law is represent that कि when gamete formation take place in a allele or in a factor, then these factor get separated or segregated. This is known as law of segregation. So the law of segregation represent the characteristics of an organisms are determined by internal factor which occur in pair. Only one such factor can be present in single gamete. You can see in this lower part, capital T represent tall plant and small t represent short plant. And when the gamete formation take place, only one letter from each parent will mix and it will form capital T small t and capital T small t. And again further, when we cross the first generation, means capital T small t is the first generation. Again when we selfing the first generation, then the second generation will be observed having the ratio 3:1. Next law is law of independent assortment. What does the word independent? Independent means they are not dependent on each other. Assortment means arranged or separate. According to this law of independent assortment, it states that in the inheritance of more than one pair of trait in a cross simultaneously, the factor responsible for each pair of trait are distributed independent to the gametes. Means in this character or in this you can say law of independent assortment, we can say that the factor responsible for each pair of trait are distributed independent to the gametes. You can see in this two characters choose simultaneously for a cross in the table. Seed shape and seed color. Shape is round and wrinkled. Color is yellow and green. Round is dominate over wrinkled and yellow is dominate over green. So round will be represented as RR and wrinkled is represented as small r, and yellow is represented as YY capital, means this is dominate, and green is represented as recessive, that is small y. So capital R, capital Y will form the gamete capital R, capital Y, and small y will form the gamete small y, and these gametes get combined to form first generation, that is capital R, small r, capital Y, small y, and the expression will be round yellow seed. And when we do self pollination, that is capital R, small r, capital Y, small y, when we perform self pollination, then four types of gamete will form: capital R, capital Y, small r, capital Y, and capital R, small y, and small r and small y. Four gametes will place in horizontal direction and four will place in vertical direction, because two parents are involved during the cross. And when the cross is performed, then total 16 combination will form. Out of 16 combination, 9 there are four type of combination will produce. Out of 16, four ratios will form: 9 ratio, 3 ratio, 3 ratio, 1. So this is the ratio of dihybrid cross. Dihybrid cross means in which two characters choose simultaneously for crossing, and in this cross we can easily interpret the law of independent assortment. Next, how transmission of traits will take place, means how the characters are transferred from one generation to another generation. So the characters are transferred from one generation to another generation with the help of gametes during the sexual reproduction. And in gametes, chromosome is present, means each gamete has a nucleus, and nucleus contain DNA, RNA, and DNA is the genetic material. DNA contain gene. Segment of DNA is known as gene. So DNA is the basically the structure which is helping the transmission of trait from one generation to next generation. Next, what is gene? Now, what is gene? So gene can be simply defined as a segment of DNA or a part of DNA that express and that control the character is known as gene. So how we can represent gene? So just I am reading the slide. When a male gamete fuse with a female gamete during fertilization, they make a new cell known as zygote. Zygote contain the full set of gene. These zygote grow and develop to form a new organism having characteristics from both the parents, which it has inherited through genes. The two genes responsible for a particular characteristics are always present on the corresponding position of the pair of chromosome. So this is all about the gene. Next topic is blood group. So blood group was proposed by the scientist Karl Landsteiner. Karl Landsteiner proposed the blood group concept in human being. Human has four type of blood group, that is A, B, O, and AB, where A and B are dominant and O is always recessive in nature. So when we have to write the alleles regarding the blood group, then we write A in the superscript or B in the superscript. If the genotype, if we ask that write the genotype of blood group A, then we write IA or IAIO. AA is dominant, then the blood group will be A, and IAIO, O is recessive, then automatically the blood group will be A. Same for B, IB, IBIO, and same for O, only IOIO will be there. So by knowing these alleles, we can verify or we can check the blood group that may be present in the next generation. We can easily calculate. Suppose parent P1 has A blood group, parent P2 has B blood group, what will be the combination of next generation? So we just make a cross between A and B alleles. Okay. Next, if we ask that parents first is having A blood group and the second is having O blood group, write the next possible combination of next generation. So sometimes this question may be asked. Next is sex determination. Now, what is sex determination? In this, we can easily predict that what will be the sex of next generation, children, or male or a female. So, the process by which the sex of a person is determined is called as sex determination. The chromosome which determines the sex of person is called as sex chromosome. Sex chromosome in male is XY and in female it is XX. If a sperm carrying X chromosome fertilizes the ovum, then the child will be a girl. If a sperm carrying Y chromosome fertilizes an ovum, then the child born will be a boy. It is the sperm which determines the sex of a child. Now acquired trait and inherited trait. Acquired traits are those traits which is not inherited but it develop in response to the environment. Means these are the characters that develop after the birth of an organism during the growth and the development. So these traits are acquired trait. For example, if we acquire some knowledge or if we acquire technique of any activity doing in our daily life, so it is not transferred from one generation to another generation. Acquired traits cannot be passed to the next generation or the future generation. Next is inherited trait. A trait of an organism which is caused by the change in its DNA or gene is called as inherited trait. These are the characteristics which we can receive from our parents, or these can be transferred from one generation to next generation. Example, eye color, skin color, generally transfer from parents to their next generation. So these are the questions that we can try after reading this topic. So this is all about. Thank you.